Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Wow, full house. Good to see everybody. 6 months. Wow.
Yeah.
Goes fast.
Coming on. I remember my first Monday morning here. The Monday morning, Noan said to me, "How long are you here?" I said, "I'll be here for 6 months." And he said, "Well, that'll go fast." He was right. He was right. So, wow, I've got to be the resident priest in training for 6 months here at Nebraska Zen Center. What a joy. What a joy. And you know, I have a jewel in my sleeve. Somewhere in here. How funny is that? I can't find it. It's in there. Anyway, right before service had started, a sangha member came up to me and handed me a crystal. So I'm standing and I put it in my sleeve. And that really touched me because in the Lotus Sutra there's a story about a jewel that is sewn into the sleeve of someone who is impoverished. And little does that person know that in their very own sleeve, they have a jewel. And they're not actually impoverished. And so how cool. And you know, my job as a teacher is to point out that you all have that jewel. That we're living in that very jewel. We abide in that jewel. That jewel is more we, more me, more us, more you, than what we tend to take ourselves to be. So even though I can't find the jewel, which is actually pretty good, there's a jewel, but there's no jewel. Pretty good. I can't actually take it out and show it to you. It'll fall out at some point. So if you see something, see a jewel on the ground, please return it to me. I really appreciate it. And you know, that's what we do for each other as Sangha anyway. So today I wanted to give a talk about my best suggestions for practice. My best suggestions for practice. And I wanted this to be kind of a fun and playful talk. So hopefully that's what it ends up being. So I'm going to give what I found arose when preparing for this talk, my best suggestions for practice. And they might be different a year from now. They might be different 2 years from now. They might be the same 3 years from now. So these are my best suggestions for now. And with all Dharma talks, try to find something that's relevant to you. So if in any of these suggestions you're like, maybe not for me, okay. What is for you? What is for you? And you know, because people are less likely to remember the things that I say and more likely to remember stories, I will be, with each of the suggestions, best suggestions for practice, I'll be providing a brief story from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. So if you can't remember the things that I say, maybe you can remember these stories. And stories in our tradition run very, very deep. Chan stories, stories in Japan, stories from teachers, contemporary teachers, stories from India. So it's much easier to remember a story than it is to remember, like, what was that one encouragement? I can't remember. So a little bit about this book. So Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, compiled by Paul Reps. So this includes 4 different books. And the stories that I will be riffing on will be from 101 Zen Stories, which is the first book in this book. And it was first published in 1939. So I thought that would be really cool because This is before Zen really began to take root in America. Really before it began to take root. So these stories are in our culture. These stories are pre-Zen as we know it today stories. So to begin, the first suggestion, ensure you have a regular practice and that you do it consistently. Let this permeate the rest of your life. Have a regular practice, do it consistently. Do it regularly, ideally every day. Do it regularly. When spiritual practice became the primary focus of my life, this is in 2008, my teacher at that time, and she's still my teacher, Lynn, had a moment where I'm like, well, what now? And she said, practice yoga every day. I said, okay, any particular kind of yoga, tradition? Doesn't matter, just practice yoga every day. So I did. And I lived in a studio apartment in Duluth, Minnesota. I had a really beautiful kitchen, although it was a sloping kitchen because the front of the house was beginning to sink. And so I would roll out a thin purple mat in the kitchen and I would do yoga practice. And I didn't have AC, so sometimes it was really, really hot. Sometimes it was really, really cold. And this was the beginning of my daily practice. And that was really helpful. That was really, really helpful. And we want to have a practice that's very helpful for us. So fortunately, I had a teacher who looked at me and thought, well, this guy's a little ungrounded. He could use some connection to his body. So do yoga every day. That was her suggestion. And it wasn't until 2013 where I would step foot into a Zen temple, and that would become the primary form in which my practice took shape. So have a regular practice. So this is number 1 in 101 Zen stories. Nan-in, a Japanese master, 35. It's pretty nice. Zen students are with their masters at least 10 years before they presume to teach others. Nan-in was visited by Tenno, who, having passed his apprenticeship, had become a teacher. The day happened to be raining, so Tenno wore wooden clogs and carried an umbrella. After greeting him, Nan-in remarked, I suppose you left your wooden clogs in the vestibule. I want to know if your umbrella is on the right side or left side of the clogs. Tenmo, confused, had no instant answer. He realized he was unable to carry his Zen every minute. He became Nan-in's pupil, and he studied 6 more years to accomplish his every minute Zen. So we have a regular practice and let that permeate our whole life. I misplace things a lot. Okay, suggestion number 2. You will encounter challenges in your practice. And those that are specific to you. Sure, you'll encounter the 5 hindrances, but you'll also encounter challenges that are very specific to you and your own ancient twisted karma. This has been absolutely true for me. And our tradition says that actually there's a lot of possibility in these challenges. Not that these are challenges to be gotten rid of, but actually these challenges can expand us, grow us, help us to be who we really are. And it takes imagination, it takes encouragement. And I found a story that I think is pretty good that conveys this point. This is number 8. In the early days of the Meiji era, there lived a well-known wrestler called Onami, Great Waves. Onami was immensely strong and knew the art of wrestling. In his private bouts, he defeated even his teacher, but in public, he was so bashful that even his own pupils threw him. Onami felt he should go to a Zen master for help. Hakuju, a wandering teacher, was stopping in a little temple nearby, so Onami went to see him and told him of his trouble. Great Waves is your name, the teacher advised. So stay in this temple tonight. Imagine that you are those billows. You are no longer a wrestler who is afraid. You are those huge waves sweeping everything before them, swallowing all in their path. Do this, and you will be the greatest wrestler in the land. The teacher retired. Onami sat in meditation, trying to imagine himself as waves. He thought of many different things. Then gradually, he turned more and more to the feeling of the waves. As the night advanced, the waves became larger and larger. They swept away the flowers in their vases. Even the Buddha in the shrine was inundated. Before dawn, the temple was nothing but the ebb and flow of an immense sea. In the morning, the teacher found Onami meditating, faint smile on his face. He patted the wrestler's shoulder. Now nothing can disturb you, he said. You are those waves. You will sweep everything before you. The same day, Onami entered the wrestling contests and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him. So, a creative approach. The next encouragement is going to Zen Center is important. And taking that out into the world is where the rubber hits the road. It's really important to have a place to go to practice. It's really important to practice in community. We teach each other, we support each other, and the temple keeps us honest. It keeps us honest. It's easy to be at home and read a book and feel like you have it all together. And then to go to the temple and see, oh, that's still happening, huh? Oh. So it's really important that we practice in the temple. And it's also important that we take this out into the world. We polish each other like stones. We smooth each other's edges out. We don't even have to know that we're smoothing each other's edges out. One way to not smooth each other's edges out is to say, you know that edge that you need to smooth out? I would suggest smoothing it out.
Yeah.
It's not going to be helpful. We just let our edges smooth out together. So this is number 12. And this story is talking about Hote. So Hote is the depiction of Buddha that is fat and jolly. So maybe you've seen this image before. This Hote lived in the Tang dynasty. He had no desire to call himself a Zen master or to gather many disciples about him. Instead, he walked the streets with a big sack into which he would put gifts of candy, fruit, or donuts. These he would give to children who gathered around him and play. He established a kindergarten of the streets. Whenever he met a Zen devotee, he would extend his hand and say, "Give me 1 penny." And if anyone asked him to return to a temple to teach others, again, he would reply, "Give me 1 penny." Once, as he was about his play play-work. That's pretty good. Another Zen master happened along and inquired, "What is the significance of Zen?" Otei immediately plopped his sack down on the ground in silent answer. "Then," asked the other, "what is the actualization of Zen?" At once, Otei joyfully swung the sack over his shoulder and continued on his way. So we can come to Zen Center and we can put everything down. And sometimes putting everything down actually looks like facing what's really there. We put everything down. And then we go out in the world and we do what needs to be done. We do our play work. Give toys and treats to little kids. Laugh in the streets. The next is meet with a teacher and let yourself be a student. This is the next encouragement. Meet with a teacher and let yourself be a student. This is really important for a number of reasons. One, it's central in our Zen tradition. Two is consider the culture in which we're in. A very individualistic culture based on achievement, based on individualistic expertise. This isn't the whole picture, of course. This is just a portrayal. So oftentimes we come to our practice thinking, okay, I need to achieve something, and I need to achieve something on my own. These are two delusions. And a Zen teacher helps us to see that we can't do this on our own. And that there's nothing to achieve. There's no thing to achieve. If you look for the jewel in your sleeve, you won't find it. So this is number 75. A Zen student came to Bankei and complained, "Master, I have an ungovernable temper. How can I cure it?" "You have something very strange," replied Bankei. "Let me see what you have." He said, "Just now I cannot show it to you. Just now I cannot show it to you." "When can you show it to me?" replied Bankei. "It arises unexpectedly." "Then," concluded Bankei, "it must not be your own true nature. If it were, you could show it to me at any time. When you were born, you did not have it, and your parents did not give it to you. Think that over." It's funny, I read this story a few times, and the first time I read it, in my imagination, they were sitting next to one another in a busy restaurant, side by side, just having kind of a light, easy conversation. So we can get this kind of support, this kind of seeing from a teacher. And all it requires is that we're willing to be a student. Willing to be a student. The next encouragement here is get out of your head and into your body. Get out of your head and into your body. So oftentimes when we start practicing, we kind of start right here. Has anybody noticed this? I gotta figure out what I'm doing. I gotta figure out how this is. I have to have an understanding of it here. And we miss this whole other brain. So the merging of opposites, body and mind. Shin, heart-mind, is the name for mind. So we need to have the courage to drop out of our discursive thinking and into the wilderness of our body, into the darkness, the sensations, the aliveness, the wonder, deep wisdom. Your body's an earth, not an abstraction. Your body is the earth and the whole cosmos. And so we can, instead of leading with our mind, we can lead with our big mind. And we can let the discursive thinking settle into our body. And let the deep wisdom of our body teach us, lead us, show us the true way. Okay, now we're back to number 1. For the first time. Nanin, a Japanese master during the Meiji era, received a university professor who came to inquire about Zen. Nanin served tea. He poured his visitor's cup full and then kept on pouring. The professor watched the overflow until he could no longer restrain himself. "It's overfull! No more will go in!" "Like this cup," Nanin said. "You are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Unless you first empty your cup. And this is why it's important to have a regular practice. Because we create a safe container to empty our cup. And so we can practice trusting in heart mind, trusting in faith mind on a regular basis. Don't worry, your opinions will come back. This is related to get out of your head and into your body. Let your practice be mostly action with some study. Let your understanding of what you study come from your practice, not the other way around. Let it be from your practice, not from your study. Let your practice illuminate your study. And then your study will illuminate your practice. As if to say, the name of this one, 36, is Flower Shower. I just appreciate that. This is a very, very good example of what I'm trying to convey. Subhuti was Buddha's disciple. He was able to understand the potency of emptiness, the viewpoint that nothing exists except in its relationship of subjectivity and objectivity. One day, Subhuti, in a mood of sublime emptiness, was sitting under a tree. Flowers began to fall about him. "We are praising you for your discourse on emptiness," the gods whispered to him. "But I have not spoken of emptiness," said Subhuti. "You have not spoken of emptiness. We have not heard emptiness," responded the gods. "This is true emptiness." And blossoms showered upon Subhuti as rain. So let your practice create a flower shower. I guess just riffing on this a little bit. My experience of spending time with my many teachers has been that they present the Dharma in really kind of a no big deal kind of way. And I can tell that they're just letting their being permeate. And oftentimes, after I'm done meeting my teachers, I can't remember what they said. But I can remember the feeling. And so likewise, we're learning to discern this sense in our lives. And we don't even have to worry about whether or not that's noticed. The next encouragement is practice kindness. This is a complete practice. This is a complete practice. So practicing goodwill, loving kindness, metta, a deep kind of caring for oneself, and letting that extend to others. And sometimes the way in which we care for others can inform how we can care for ourselves. Story here is number 57. A soldier named Nobushige came to Hakuin and asked, "Is there really a paradise and a hell?" "Who are you?" inquired Hakuin. "I am a samurai," the warrior replied. "You are a soldier," exclaimed Hakuin. "What kind of a ruler would have you as his guard? Your face looks like that of a beggar." Nobushige became so angry that he began to draw his sword, but Hakuin continued. "So you have a sword. Your weapon is probably much too dull to cut off my head." As Nobushige drew his sword, Hakuin remarked, "Here opens the gates of hell." At these words, the samurai, perceiving the master's discipline, sheathed his sword and bowed, and in some versions begins to weep. "Here opens the gates of paradise," said Hakuin. "Here opens the gates of paradise." Seeing clearly with compassion, opens the gates of paradise. The next encouragement is how you practice is much more important than what you practice. How you practice is much more important than what you practice. So practice with sincerity, practice with love, practice with openness and curiosity. It's how we do the things that we do that matters far more than what we do. How do you practice? This is number 18. Buddha told a parable in a sutra. A man traveling across a field encountered a tiger. He fled. The tiger came after him. Coming to a precipice, he caught hold of the root of a wild vine and swung himself down over the edge. The tiger sniffed at him from above. Trembling, the man looked down to where far below another tiger was waiting to eat him. Only the vine sustained him. 2 mice, 1 white, 1 black, little by little, started to gnaw away the vine. The man saw a luscious strawberry near him. Grasping the vine with one hand, he plucked the strawberry with the other. How sweet it tasted. How sweet it tasted. So don't forget to eat the strawberries. don't forget to eat the strawberries of your life. How we practice. And the strawberries are always there. We don't need to be we don't need to be hunted down by tigers to discover the strawberries. Although sometimes that's the gateway. Sometimes that's the gateway. But we don't need to wait. The next encouragement is no spiritual bypassing. No spiritual bypassing. So what does that mean? So sometimes people can use spiritual practice as a way to deceive themselves from what really needs attention in one's life. So a new form of distraction, a new form of checking out, of not paying attention, of not taking care. And a mature practice is one in which we take those very challenges of our life, the trembling as a great wrestler and being defeated by your own students, and realizing, okay, it's time to do something about this. It's time to do something about this. So no spiritual bypass. Here's a really wonderful story that I think depicts this quite well. It's called, all of these have names, and some of them I'm not reading. Most of them I'm not reading. This one is called Shoan and His Mother. So Shoan became a teacher of Soto Zen. When he was still a student, his father passed away, leaving him to care for his old mother. Whenever Shoan went to a meditation hall, he always took his mother with him. Since she accompanied him, when he visited monasteries, he could not live with the monks. So he would build a little house and care for her there. He would copy sutras, Buddhist verses, and in this manner receive a few coins for food. When Shoan bought fish for his mother, the people would scoff at him, for a monk is not supposed to eat fish. But Shoan did not mind. His mother, however, was hurt to see others laugh at her son. Finally, she told Shoan, "I think I will become a nun. I can be vegetarian too." She did, and they studied together. Shoan was fond of music, was a master of the harp, which his mother also played. On full moon nights, they used to play together. One night, a young lady passed by their house and heard music. Deeply touched, she invited Shoan to visit her the next evening and play. He accepted the invitation. A few days later, he met the young lady on the street and thanked her for her hospitalities. Others laughed at him. He visited the house of a woman of the streets. One day, Shoan left for a distant temple to deliver a lecture. A few months afterwards, he returned home to find his mother dead. Friends had not known where to reach him, so the funeral was then in progress. Shoan walked up and hit the coffin with his staff. "Mother, your son has returned," he said. "I am glad to see you have returned, son," he answered for his mother. "Yes, I'm glad too," Shoan responded. Then he announced to the people about him, "The funeral ceremony is over. You may bury the body." When Shoan was old, he knew his end was approaching. He asked his disciples to gather around him in the morning, telling them he was going to pass at noon. Burning incense before the picture of his mother and his old teacher, he wrote a poem. "For 56 years I lived as best I could, making my way in this world. Now the rain has ended. The clouds are clearing. The blue sky has a full moon." His disciples gathered about him, reciting a sutra, and Shoan passed on during the invocation. Such a nice story. So what does this have to do with spiritual bypass? Well, as a monk, Shoen would be encouraged to go to the monastery and leave the world behind. But Shoen knew that the circumstances of his life were taking care of his mother. Not only that, but he had this wonderful opportunity to play for someone and express gratitude. And this would also be frowned upon during these times. So he lived the life that was right in front of him. He lived the life that was right in front of him. And he was able to discover what is the balance between his duties and his needs in terms of being the priest that he needed to be. And he found a balance. He got laughed at. But he found his own balance. And likewise, we need to find our balance. We need to find our balance. The next one is let your aspiration lead you. So if you have an aspiration to awaken, if you have an aspiration to heal, if you have an aspiration to be in harmony with your life, let that lead you. Let that lead you. Instead of the idea of, oh, I'm a monk and I should abandon my mother and I should not pay my respects because those are the rules. Shoen let his aspiration lead him. My aspiration is to awaken and to meet this life. So to further embellish this story, we have 24. I love this one. A farmer requested a Tendai priest to recite sutras for his wife who had died. After the recitation was over, the farmer asked, "Do you think my wife will gain merit from this?" "Not only your wife, but all sentient beings will benefit from the recitation of the sutras." "If you say all sentient beings will benefit," said the farmer, "my wife may be very weak, and others will take advantage of her, getting the benefit she should have. So please recite sutras just for her." The priest explained that it was the desire of a Buddhist to offer blessings and wish merit for every living being. He responded, "That is a fine teaching, but please make one exception. I have a neighbor who is rough and mean to me. Just exclude him from all of this." Pretty good. So what does this have to do with our aspiration? Well, oftentimes our tendency wants us to find loopholes. Like, surely this practice can't apply to that situation that I find ever so irksome. Yeah. But we're encouraged. Let your aspiration be huge. And we may say, well, maybe there can be an exception here. Please let there be an exception here. That's part of our practice. That's part of our no spiritual bypassing. Oh, I really want an exception here. I really want to practice loophole. It's our situation. That's our situation. So we get close to it. This is the second to last encouragement. Be honest with yourself and be kind to yourself. And that those two don't have to be different. Being honest and being kind can be one thing. we really want a garden, but our backyard is filled with sand, but we're so fixated on having a garden, we may just carelessly throw seeds. But if we're really honest, we would realize, oh, a lot of sand back here. I'm gonna have to do some work. I'm gonna have to get some tools. I'm gonna have to get some rich compost. I should figure out which of these seeds I can put in the ground and which of these seeds I might have to nurture in the house in April. I'm not a gardener, so maybe it's sooner than that. Maybe it's March, I don't know. I see a nod. It sounds like it's March. So this is 64. So if we're honest, we can take care of what needs to be taken care of. We stick a spade into the sand and realize, oh, there's rich compost under here all along. Fantastic. So, this is 64. Kassan was asked to officiate at the funeral of a provincial lord. He had never met lords and nobles before, so he was nervous. When the ceremony started, Kassan sweat. Afterwards, when he had returned, he gathered his pupils together. Kassan confessed that he was not yet qualified to be a teacher, for he lacked the sameness of bearing in the world of fame that he possessed in the secluded temple. Then Kassan resigned and became the pupil of another master. 8 years later, he returned to his former pupils, enlightened. And I'd like to add here that if you find that you're nervous, you don't have to throw out your whole practice and start over. There's a wonderful story that Tim Burkett, my Dharma grandpa, likes to tell, which is about Shunryu Suzuki. And he was really close to Shunryu Suzuki in the early days and was a big part of establishing San Francisco Zen Center and so on and so forth in Tassajara. And they had gone to a college and Shunryu Suzuki was preparing to give a lecture. And Tim was sitting next to him, young Tim. I only know old Tim. It's really funny to, even when I picture him back in the day, he's old Tim. But he must have looked different. And Shunryu Suzuki is preparing to go up. They're both sitting together. And Shunryu Suzuki grabs Tim's sleeve and says, I'm scared. And releases his sleeve and goes up and delivers a beautiful lecture. So he had the ability to be totally honest. Zen master, feeling scared before giving a lecture. Stayed totally honest all the way up till he got to the lectern. And then the final encouragement is find the feeling and let that guide you. Find the feeling. Find the feeling. So what do I mean? The Dharma has a feeling tone. We can discover that feeling tone. We can harmonize with that, and we can let our practice come from there. I didn't know that I'd start practicing Zen. Who knows? Who knows? 20 years from now, will I still be practicing Zen? Greta and I like to joke that maybe someday I will become a Franciscan monk. So we just don't know. But we can find and discern the feeling of the big Dharma. The Dharma that is beyond any particular religious expression. Grandpa Tim Burkett once during a Dharma talk said, "Oh, you don't need to be so religious about it." And then he could tell in the conversations that it had gone a little bit in a tilted direction, and he said, "Oh, I say that as a joke. I'm a religious leader here." But even as such, he's able to say, don't get caught. Stay with the feeling of capital D Dharma and harmonize with that and see where that takes you. 68. And I like the title of this one. One Note of Zen. After Kakua visited the emperor, he disappeared, and no one knew what became of him. He was the first Japanese to study Zen in China. But since he showed nothing of it, save one note, he is not remembered for having brought Zen into his country. Kakua visited China and accepted the true teaching. He did not travel while he was there. Meditating constantly, he lived on a remote part of a mountain. Whenever people found him and asked him to preach, he would say a few words and then move to another part of the mountain where he could be found less easily. The emperor heard about Kakua. When he returned to Japan and asked him to preach for his edification and that of his subjects, Kakua stood before the emperor in silence. He then produced a flute from the folds of his robe and blew one short note. Bowing politely, he disappeared. So perhaps Kakua was able to find the feeling of capital D Dharma and stay close to that. And perhaps Kakua discovered that certain circumstances made it really hard for him to sustain that particular expression of capital D Dharma. And so he fulfilled his duties, stayed true to himself. And I imagine that one note was pretty amazing. A single note, but coming from the great Buddha Dharma. What a sound to behold. You know, these teachings tell us that sound occurred before that note was blown and continue endlessly. So may we, together, with all beings, continue to carry the Dharma forward as we are. And you know, maybe we have a couple minutes for words, but we'll have plenty of time for words also. It's just a potluck. But I just wanted to express my unexpressible gratitude. This has been such a great joy to serve you, to be here for 6 months. I think about all of you often. I don't know if you know that. I do. Wonder how so-and-so's doing. Wonder how so-and-so's doing. And I don't think that that will end because I depart. At the end of a Shuso ceremony, which is kind of the culmination of Longkar Anand's teaching, training, there's a Hosen Shiki ceremony, which is Dharma combat, where you have a koan and it's presented to the community, and then the community asks questions of you. And you have to respond in spontaneous and brief style. And it's a really amazing ceremony. And at the very end of the ceremony, the person who just so says, "Forgive any mistakes I have made. I will continue to practice harder. And likewise, forgive any mistakes I have made while being here. And I will continue to practice harder." And I so have appreciated getting to know all of you. This will forever be a very important memory in my life. It was 6 months down in Nebraska Zen Center. There's so much sincere practice happening. I'm just amazed. One of the reasons I came here was I went and checked it out before I came here. And there's so much wonderful ritual happening. Participated in a full moon ceremony, participated in a Zazen Kai. And I was really amazed by how much the tradition is honored within this building. And not only that, but expressed in a very traditional way. And I remember telling people, yeah, I'm gonna go do this thing in Nebraska. I have this really kind of traditional center. It's really amazing. They light real incense there. All the centers around the Twin Cities area just use lavender buds.
Yeah, California too.
California too. And so I tell people about the seriousness of practice in Omaha, Nebraska. They say, "Really? In Omaha?" I say, "Yes, in Omaha." And I wasn't disappointed. You all amaze me in the way that you hold each other up and the way that you stick to your practice.
Well, Jikan, I always hope you feel that you have a home. Don't be a stranger.
Certainly not. And certainly.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. The emptiness of the three wheels.
Thank you.
This feels like a good place to end.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk later. Thank you all online. It's so nice to see you. You're getting bows from the Zen